I recently told my daughter the story of how I met her mother. I somehow managed to not make it a 9-season disappointment fest, but I'm not a celebrity, so as I told her the story, I watched as her eyes lit up. Something about this story caused something inside of her to come alive. She connected with it on a very personal level. This story about two other people told her about herself, her past, where she came from, and who she was. As the story went on, I could tell she just wanted more and more, to the point I was tempted to start making stuff up to spice it up a little, but I didn't. Because the story matters. Even if it's not a great one, stories matter. We, as humans, are storytellers. By nature, by design, we tell stories. From where we went to lunch to the birth of a child, every story has its meaning, and they tell us about ourselves and about the storytellers themselves. The pages of the Bible are full of these kinds of stories. Stories of men and women interacting with God, and through these stories we learn something about God, about ourselves, and most often, we learn both. Sometimes these stories even reveal things to us that we had never noticed before. They resonate on a level that's unexplainable, as if the stories were written solely, purposely about us, for us, and to us. And in some puzzling, wonderful way, the stories move past the pages of the Bible, they move out of history, and they reflect my reality. They become my story.
Once upon a time, there was a son who rejected the love of his father. And to the surprise of all those who saw his appalling behavior and his public disrespect the son has for the father still loves him. In fact, he went to great lengths to try to regain his son's affection. It took a long time, but in the end, it paid off. And I know this to be true because I am that son.
There once was a master carpenter who awoke one morning to find that his prized creation had been stolen. Much to the surprise of everyone who knew him, instead of fashioning a new creation, he instead decided to search for the one that had been stolen. In time, the thief made its whereabouts known, even offering to return the creation, if the carpenter were willing to pay an unreasonably high price. Without even flinching, the carpenter agreed to the terms, and an exchange was made. I know this to be true because I am his prized creation.
Once upon a time, there was a powerful king who loved a young peasant girl. He knew that as king, he could claim her to be his own, take her by force to be his bride. But would she love him? Would she truly love him? Or would she only agree to the invitation out of obligation? And how could he, a powerful king, enter the world of a peasant girl without overwhelming her with his imposing presence? How could he win her affections? To the amazement of all that knew him, he moved out of the palace, leaving behind all the trappings of royalty to come set up shop in a village as a carpenter. And in time, through his kindness alone, won the heart of the young peasant girl. I know this to be true because it was my heart that found it nearly impossible to resist the love of my king who came disguised as a carpenter.
These stories, they're your story. They're my story. They may not all look the same, but these are the stories of our lives intersecting with the God of the universe. And throughout the Bible, story after story, this same narrative keeps popping up time and again. The God of the universe, searching for his lost children, paying a high price to buy back his most prized creation, pursuing and serving those that he loves, so he can win them over with his loving kindness. The entirety of the Bible, the whole of history, is just a story that God is telling himself. And every story, every person gets to be a page, a chapter, a plot point in this great big God story that our Heavenly Father shares with his children. That's your story. That's my story. That we, the lost children, the prized creations, the beloved of the God of all creation, get to be a part of his story. And he's not done writing just yet. I think that's pretty cool.